Wait! Over here! Wait! Officer, you must take me with you. Should we just have it in his
The Evil Within was created by the team at Shinji Mikami's Tango Gameworks in Tokyo, Japan, in conjunction with Bethesda. After ZeniMax, the mother company, bought out Tango, around that time in 2010, game development started. Starting this game, it is awash with Resident Evil design. Released on the 14th of October 2014 on PC, Xbox and PlayStation systems to somewhat high acclaim from critics. Shinji Mikami, the creator, was said to have wanted to create a game that was more survival horror than action, as the horror genre in his opinion had slid. The art design, which is deliberately confusing, is said to be intended to create a sense of helplessness. It is easy to see where The Evil Within gets its roots, from the characters that are shallow but mysterious, the environments that are grim and moody, and the anxiety that is somewhat rampant throughout the game. In some ways, things haven't changed from the still releasing Resident Evil titles, but at very least they have a mythology to draw on to keep the player involved. It's because of this lack of meaning behind the story within the game that it's more shallow than deep and intriguing. When the opening cutscene finishes, it's shocking to see that there are two big black bars on top and bottom of the screen, to reduce the views that make the game more confined, I believe. But straight off the bat, it makes you regret not having a bigger TV. There's no option to remove the bars. What was found is a frustrating experience with limited rewards and next to no story. It was only until I hit the 9-hour mark that I had any clue as to why I was killing the creatures that represented reskinned zombies, and shared most of the AI, it seems, from Resident Evil 4.
Ruvik, it is you. Who the hell are you? No! Don't follow!
The campaign itself is divided into chapters and could be completely interchangeable, much like Family Guy skits.
Doctor?
Throughout the course of my 17-hour campaign, which finished in an epic but surprisingly easy boss fight with seriously confusing endings, I reflected that I was met with some excellently designed creatures, including the end boss, which is my favourite by far. They were truly unique and frightening. All of the good-looking creatures were the bosses. Like Reborn Laura, she had a shuddering, horrible scream.
Shit, I'd better run!
Boxhead, who is getting his own DLC, he has a safe on his head and it's pretty freaky, and the massive abomination that chases you.
God damn it!
It is called the Amalgam Alpha. The rest seem like typical minions, ranging from zombie, zombie with gun, zombie that spits acid, zombie with machine gun, and zombie with two heads that can have a claw come out and bite your head off. Another insta-kill mechanic that seems to be intensely present. Also, for some reason, they don't have the ability to set off their own explosive arrows or mines. They don't get hurt by each other imminently, at least most of the time, and they honestly just come off as reskinned zombies, with AI akin to that of the Resident Evil Revelations series. All too often, apart from these infuriating mechanics, the game was far too unforgiving, considering it was set to normal. Things were not often explained, the tutorials are brief, and the mechanics like crafting feel pointless, and rarely did I have fun. Stealth is one of those pointless mechanics. In the first few chapters, you are required to use stealth to get around enemies, hiding in cupboards, under beds, and behind things. But unlike the recently reviewed Alien Isolation, it's easy to be spotted, even when you're in a dark environment, meters away in a cave. An eye is meant to appear in the HUD. It is supposedly meant to guide you, to indicate when you have been seen and when you have not, but rarely did it even appear to me. No doubt it was placed in the game to handicap the already poor AI that accompanies the title. It was only after Chapter 3 that I stopped stealthing completely. Places I could press a button to hide in disappeared, and it seemed to focus on the long stretches of cave, dark, dreary, I must emphasise dreary caves with lots of monsters. The Chainsaw Man, a specific enemy, is pretty much a clone of those found in Resident Evil 4. He has a one-touch death, just like Resident Evil 4, so any interaction, and you are chopped into tiny little bits. But on top of that frustration and fear that is caused by such entanglements is the fact that often his animation need only graze you to put you in an instant death cycle, something that's just not fair in a survival horror situation. Many of the windows I thought I could jump out of, I could not. Many of the traps I fell into were unavoidable. Many times this game made me scream. Not out of how much horror it drove me to, but how much frustration it gave in the ways that it's just horrible. After killing creatures, you collect brains to improve your level, using some sort of shock chair, which again is not really elaborated on. Ever. You can improve your accuracy, health, endurance and whatnot. Again, the system seems a bit perturbed. You're required to collect jars of brains to level yourself up, yet for some reason the toughest enemies, specifically bosses, don't seem to drop brains consistently, so you spend all of your precious ammo that you are meant to conserve and end up with nothing, continuing the albeit grinding adventure of the protagonist, Sebastian. Quite frankly, I'm shocked to see people raving about this bloody gory, bland fest of cheap thrills and somewhat unique moments. I'm not denying that there are some good things about the game. I want to play more, even considering purchasing the DLC, but only on the proviso that things are easier now. I've attained higher stats. That's surely to make things easier. The game does have unique creature design and unique story elements, but so much of it is shallow. The enemies are slow, stupid, and re-skinned zombies, plain and simple. Even some of the bosses were easy to kill. What really gives the horror game feel in this game is that ammo is hard to come by, and for a game that has ruined the stealth mechanic and expects you to sneak and conserve your way past these cretins, it just doesn't make sense. Graphics really, well, it resembles Resident Evil. With some texture pop-ins and outs, they're barely noticeable, but the environment looks detailed. You'll see many different versions of the same asylum and tunnels. Far too often I found myself reliving the same rooms again and again, with slightly different attire. The save station was an interesting feature, but as you will discover, having Sebastian the protagonist open the door again and again, slowly, will drive you mad. That said, there are some nice effects that will have you transitioning from vision to vision in your hellish travels, something that I think they could have done more of. I did enjoy some of the beautifully gore-tastic bosses. In the sound department, there are chilling sound effects, specifically the girl that does not like flame. Running from her was scary stuff. After sitting to write the review, after the game has ended, no music that was memorable enters my mind. Overall, the game has a lot of promise in the way of unique story, all of it to be backed up with shallow characters. The grueling corridors, the endless lines of no ammo, and the sheer pointlessness of the whole experience made me reiterate that while there are some good effects such as flesh falling off zombies as you shoot them, and some awesomely crafted bosses, that can't save it from the fact that it's a frustrating, clunky, awkward experience that will have you wishing you had taken that lobotomy instead. I'm Max Korobax at Idiot Box Games.